staring down the barrel of elimination here at Champs. All the way out in Istanbul. Laz holding the angle. Blaze on the peak. Flipsider below him. And he's got a Guardian. If he can slip in quietly, he may have something to do here. Oh, he got one. It's a 2v2 here. Flipsider, the leader, again, outnumbered, outgunned, and down. ZETA take the right cross that Boom throw their way and deliver a knockout punch of their own.
A roller coaster of a series. In what at the tail end of Pearl we thought could have been a bitter burnout to ZETA's bright flame, but it continues. One more chance here in groups to give them another lease at life in playoffs.
What a performance. Again, man, this was just a couple of hours ago that Laz didn't want to get up from his seat. Remember, it was XQQ who had to go back to him to lift his spirits up because he was wearing the loss. You know, we often talk about grit, but that has to be probably the grittiest performance I've seen.
That was tenacity from Laz and so much more too. Sugar Zero showing up on map number 2. And you could feel it on so many different levels. It was so hard for them to maintain their mental from beginning of end of the series.
But freaking A, did they do it.
And for Boom, man, such a rough defeat to go out on that note.
Yeah.
When everything else up to that point was like, yeah, we could do this. We could compete on the global stage. I think they've proven that, but the problem is they're going to go home with this 13-2. So difficult to see a team.
Again, man, to be so close. And you're right, it's so difficult to see a team get that close and not be able to close it out. It's heartbreaking. It really is.
But here they are, man. I want to call them the darlings of VCT Global Esports this year because they've made so many fans of not just the Japanese scene, but everybody worldwide rooting for this team. And there's still time here for them. Josh said it. How close they were from crumbling. But they could still go on a run. They could still make it deep. They could still win the tournament. All things are a possibility. Obviously, they're going to have to work on their form, but that's what they did at Reykjavik, man.
Yep. The exact same thing they did at Reykjavik. It was their initial series in Reykjavik was what, 13-2, 13-1 against DRX?
Just dominated by DRX.
And then they put on this insane run. And you feel like they learned a lot about who they were, about what they're made of in Reykjavik, and it somehow feels like they've learned even more after that series. I mean, that was outrageous.
It feels like they came out stronger than they did at Reykjavik for sure.
Yes, absolutely. You guys are going to have to get your votes in for the End Zone MVP. Scan the QR code behind me. You've got Laz, you have Depp, and you have Sugar Zero. But again, it felt like an entire team performance.
Yeah.
XQQ probably needs to be on that list. Who knows what those conversations look like behind the scenes, but it's so hard to overlook the impact that a coach has in those situations.
Yep. It's really, really difficult to even find that impact.
Yeah.
But on the server, Laz was so consistent.
Yep.
Series after series after series.
It was a roller coaster indeed, but finally, after the dust settles and it's all said and done, it's ZETA Division that will be moving on in this group. And unfortunately, we have to send the Indonesian team, Boom Esports, home. I'm Golden Boy alongside with Mimi, as well as Sideshow here. And Mimi, I mean, off the rip, like, let's just really reflect on the fact that ZETA's grit, their determination to get them to this point, my goodness, it feels like they were really in that glass case of emotions.
I mean, it was such an incredible recovery for them. You saw the emotions coming through in the Prime Gaming post-match highlights there, where they were kind of like falling apart. It looked like a team completely dismantled. And then once they made it over that final step, got to the third map, they just woke up completely.
Yeah, one of the awesome things about Fracture is that they never even had a moment where they were tested. They lost the pistol in the follow-up, and then ZETA just went on a streak of 13 rounds in a row.
Notice that.
Yeah, 13 rounds in a row. I mean, it's just absurd there. And overall, that is an amazing sigh of relief for ZETA Division, ZETA fans. They weren't tested, they weren't pushed to the limit on the final map, they didn't have their mental pressed at all, so they have that time to go back and reflect and improve. APAC's been on the glow up, and not just APAC the region, but the entirety of APAC and East Asia as well. And I think from the other side of things, Laz cemented himself again as that best Japanese player. If you're looking at other players that are coming out of East Asia, Laz should be up there towards the top of your list. This is the rankings of the top 5 chambers at Champions right now, and Laz is creaming everybody. I mean, okay, the sample size is small for a lot of these other guys, but to have Laz up there with the heavy hitters of Ye, Durka, I mean, Kankang sneaking on the list as well, and his debut is fantastic. But Laz currently is playing out of his mind.
Yeah, and it's absolutely necessary for ZETA to take the win today. If it wasn't for Laz, if it wasn't for him rallying mentally and just staying so incredibly consistent across this series, they wouldn't have been able to take it home. And the consistency extends beyond this event. He's done it before internationally, and he'll do it again. This guy never disappoints for ZETA.
But you know what, the one concern I do have, Mimi, is that you see Laz's stats, you see the impact he has on the team, and I feel like even when you reflect back on the Loud matchup, on the Ascent game, they shut down Laz, made him a non-factor. That's going to be something that they need to watch out for. They can't just rely on this one man to be the difference maker for them.
I think the biggest issue for ZETA will always be the mental, will always be the emotions, and I think Laz is the biggest example of that. When he is playing well, he gets the team hyped up. You can hear it just in like the volume of nices coming out of this team every time they're winning a round. But when they're doing poorly, when he's struggling, that all falls away. ZETA have always had that issue with consistency and keeping the mental in check.
One of the players, though, that I felt has had a great performance at Champions so far that we didn't see good stuff from in the past is Depp.
Yeah.
Depp had a really amazing Fracture performance in particular, but was good across the entirety of the series. And he has been an underperformer for them. Even when they had that Reykjavik run where they finished in 3rd, Depp did not show up to LAN. He was not as good as he was online. So the individual stuff is actually working here for ZETA Division, but the putting it together as a team struggled a bit up until map 3.
Yeah, well, look, before the break, we asked y'all to vote for the in-zone player of the match. The polls have closed, and we got the results in, and I think, goodness gracious.
Wow.
I mean, look, when they ask us for who we think should be the MVP every time, right? And I was like, oh, we could make just like a joke one in my mind. I was like, it'd just be Laz. But I don't want to put disrespect on Depp and Sugar Zero because they were so impactful in the game. But Josh, I think the community just said, nah, fam.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, it was still really good match from Sugar Zero and Led, but Laz kept them in it. If it wasn't for that Laz ace, who knows where we might be? They might be on a trip home already.
Yeah, they very well could have been. I think it is literally today, no Laz, no win. But we still saw those amazing moments from everyone else on that team, which shows that, like you were saying earlier, Josh, they might have had a really shaky match here, but there's still a chance for this team in the tournament. They have a qualification match coming up against Loud. It feels like, again, history repeating itself. They have to play that team again. They have to contend with the Demons that led that match to slip away previous. It's a tough road, but it's still doable for ZETA, particularly with how well their players are performing.
Yeah, if you think back to that Reykjavik run, they didn't look amazing in groups. They didn't look amazing in their first elimination game. They just kind of struggled their way through some teams that had like a lot of subs, but then they woke up. Maybe that map 3 is them starting to wake up and get on a run.
Yeah.